welcome. For those of you that might stumble upon this video on YouTube or whatever various social media I post this on, I'm going to let you start this journey with me by knowing who I am. But before I get into who I am, I'm going to explain what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to I'm going to rewatch all 11 Star Wars movies. And after every every movie, I'm going to do a recap of it. But not from a typical type of just, oh, I love this movie, this part sucked. Nah, not like that. I'm going to dive into it as a writer, because there are so many things that people tend to forget and not even really know about just by watching these movies, because they are such great movies and they have been ingrained in our society for the last 42 plus years, give or take. And people just want to either completely crap on them because their image of what should have happened didn't happen, or just stuff that is just nonsensical. And it's not right to bash movies just because you don't agree with what happened. So before I get into all of that stuff, I want to let you know who I am and what my credentials are. For those of you that might stumble on this video not knowing this face, I am Timothy Green. I am currently in school for writing for entertainment, and then eventually going for entertainment business. My biggest claims to fame, I guess you could say, is the book I published a few years ago called War for Redwater, that I'm currently in the process of rewriting, so don't try to find it. I will post a link whenever I get to it and actually finish rewriting the book. I've also wrote a movie script, a feature script for that book, which is kind of why I'm rewriting it. Not because I didn't understand the story whenever I first published it or didn't get everything out of it. It's just while writing the script, I learned that I wasn't doing things the correct way in the storytelling aspect and the narrative structure that I put together. And it was just kind of thrown together, so I feel rewriting it's probably the best bet for me. For those of you that might want to read something that I've done, I will post a link to my website with some of my writing samples and some things that I have published. So if you do want to go and read some stuff, more than happy. I appreciate it. As you can see, as far as my fandom, I love Star Wars. You see the wall behind me, I love Star Wars. I don't even remember my first time seeing it, because my mom put me and my brothers into the theater, into sitting in front of the screen watching Star Wars, whether it was the prequels, whether it was the original trilogy, or whatever. She introduced us to it, and me and my brother just flew off the handles and just went with it. Me personally, I have played multiple games. I have read a few of the books. I am currently rereading the Revenge of the Sith novel. And after that, I'm planning on reading the Attack of the Clones, because you can't fully grasp everything that is being told to you just through the medium of film. Because there are so many things that you can't really get into and convey properly through the screen. So there's a lot of stuff that just gets pushed by the wayside, and that's what's also creating the divide in the fandom, which is what I'm going to get into now. This is kind of what I would call the state of the fandom address, I guess is what you could call it. It's kind of, I don't know what to call it. It's just there's such a divide. There are people that are probably the older scale, the older side of it, that grew up with the originals, were born with the originals, and it's just, that's their view on Star Wars. But Star Wars is so much more than just what the originals gave us. The originals gave us A New Hope. Throughout my time at school, has been used so many times for what is the hero's journey, because Luke goes on that hero journey so well. He gets the meeting of the mentor with Obi-Wan Kenobi. He gets crossing the first threshold. He gets refusing the call. All this stuff. Everything. It's just, he goes through everything, and it's in the subsequent order it's supposed to be in. So it's like the blueprint on what the hero's journey is supposed to be. But fans are just, nowadays are just bashing it because it's not living up to the originals. But you're not understanding that things are supposed to change. There's supposed to be change in everything. So you see from just the original trilogy to the prequel trilogy, and you saw how things have changed because times have changed. The first movie was released in 1977. I believe it was in May of that year. I was born in 94, so don't crucify me for that, for not knowing the exact date. But now you get that time frame of we were in a war, or going into or getting out of a war. Again, I'm not a history buff. We're just something with the war, and then that was what was influencing those movies. And then we get to the prequels where we're in the 90s, the turn of the millennium and all this stuff, and you have a different generation that is growing up with this movie. This is what these movies are intended for, because George Lucas has come out and said these movies are made for 12-year-olds. So if you're going to go off the basis of these movies were made in the 70s, so they should be for me, no. That is where you're wrong, because these are made for 12-year-olds. And for those of you that don't understand this, the age range of what children's entertainment is supposed to be, I can give you the rough years is, I believe it's adolescence to, or like infancy to 7-year-olds is children's, 7 to 12 is middle grade, and then 12 or 13 to 18 is what we call young adult. 12-year-olds are on the higher end of middle grade. For those of you that don't understand the distinction of the age ranges, is because for children's entertainment, you have to write a certain way. I'll give you an example just to help bridge it. If you're a fan of Harry Potter, we had in my children's entertainment class we had to watch the first movie and then the Goblet of Fire, and the first decide why they're so different and why they're for different ages. In the first movie, you realize that everything that's happening to Harry Potter is by luck. He luckily gets on the broom and magically knows how to do it. And then, like, no practice, no nothing, he's just chasing something. I can't remember what it was. Again, I'm not a big Harry Potter fan. And then you get to, not just that, then you have Hermione and Ron pretty much solving everything for him. People are solving everything for him, and that is a plot device used by authors for that age range. That is supposed to happen. You have Ron solving the chessboard puzzle. You have Hermione figuring everything out by the books and telling Harry, this is what we got to do. And then he luckily defeats the villain at the end. I can't remember his name. I know it wasn't he who should not be named kind of dude. I know he was influenced by the dude, but he luckily just touches him and the dude disintegrates. Like, no. No. That's not how an older generation is supposed to do it, but that is what they did in the books. That's what they did in the movies. And again, that's for the children. And then you go up to Goblet of Fire, which is for young adult, and you see that Harry is starting to stand on by himself. He's not relying on Hermione and Ron to solve everything for him. You see a little bit more tougher or more advanced type of topics being told. And like the jealousy between Ron and Hermione and Harry, like the jealousy between them. You see death a lot or more in that movie, stuff like that. That is why there's those different age ranges. And Star Wars is at the higher end of middle grade, is what it's supposed to be. So you get somebody like Jar Jar Binks, who is supposed to be the comic relief, and then everybody just craps on him, so now George has to go back and rewrite everything because of the backlash from the fans. And again, that is something I would love to point out. Stop bashing actors. You see it happening with Kelly Marie Tran with Rose Tico. That character might not even need to be happening, but it is not her job to make that character. I'm going to explain why. Because again, I am in this type of field, but I am trying to be a filmmaker as well. Actors just handle a small bit of what it is to bring a character to life. You have them making their own decisions based on what the writer, somebody like me, puts down on a page and telling the story. And then you have somebody like the director trying to influence them to get the director's vision, because the director is the one that's going to put everything together. And then they're the ones that's supposed to pull out the best performance from the actor. So you have the director going into it, and then I'm pretty sure, because I haven't worked on a film, a producer's going to come down and says, that's not how this character is supposed to be, we need to do something better with him. And then you have the actor going on set and then doing that. So don't be bashing it. You have somebody like, I believe his pronunciation, don't chastise me for it, is Ahmad Best, who played Jar Jar Binks. He ended up quitting acting because he thought that that role was going to be his jumpstart to his career. The first ever CGI, fully CGI'd character in cinema history. And he's going to use that to launch his career. But no, everyone bashed his performance. And not even just him, his character. And then they were sending him like hate mail. You saw it with Jake Lloyd, who played young Anakin. He ended up having to go to a mental institution for the bullying that he was getting. Stop bullying people. If you don't agree with a character, think of it like this. When you're younger, you kind of usually have an imaginary friend who you interact with if you're not very social. That is what the character on screen is for an actor. It is their imaginary friend that they are portraying. It is their split personality, if you will. And they are not that character. That character is not them. Though that character, whenever you get a script and you're saying, this is the part that I'm reading for, Harrison Ford for Indiana Jones. This is the character I'm becoming. Nobody says that, walks up to Harrison Ford and says, hey Indiana, or hey Han, or whatever you want. They say, hey Harrison Ford. So you can hate the character, you can hate everything about that character, but don't blame the actor for it. Don't hate that actor for it. Don't chastise that actor and bully them. That is exactly what this fandom is, and that is why Steven Spielberg and people did not want to get a part of this whenever the original or the prequel trilogy was coming out, because George Lucas is like, all right, I'm gonna do these prequels, but I don't want to direct anymore because I felt what that was when I did episode 4, and I'm like, that's too stressful, so I'm gonna try to reach out to like Steven Spielberg and other directors, and everyone came back and said, this is your baby, you do it. So he ended up doing, and look at what happened. People hated the prequels, but then we got Revenge of the Sith, and everybody loves that one. No, that just doesn't make sense. If you hate the prequels, how can you love something that was a part of it? It's weird, right? So I'm going to wrap it up because I'm going to try to keep these short. And just enjoy these films for the art pieces that they are. Art is supposed to be subjective and allowing you to interpret things the way you're wanting to. Like they always say, you can say, or a piece of art is worth 1,000 words to some degree. And that is what Star Wars is. It is art. This stuff isn't real. Sorry to burst your bubble, people, but this stuff is fiction. It's a Western space opera made a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So just enjoy them. You can voice your opinion. You can say, oh, I didn't like this film and these are the reasons why, but at least try to give reason better than I just didn't like them because they did this. You can say I didn't like this because of the way that they were supposed to do this, but then they did it like this and it just didn't sit well with me. Stuff like that. Just don't hate people for their opinions. Don't hate people because they might not have done what you would have done. I'll get into the whole performance of Hayden Christensen whenever I get to those movies here in a little bit. I'm going to release these daily so you're not overblown with them. Stuff like that. So just love each other in this fandom is what I'm trying to get at. You can hate each other or hate the movies that other people like. You can love the movies that other people love. You can talk about them because again, that is what we're supposed to do, is talk about these. And that's the biggest form of flattery for entertainers, is when people get together and discuss it. And I'll get to another point whenever I get to the sequel trilogy, because I'm going to do them from episode 1 to 3, do the trilogy recap, Solo and Rogue One. And if you want, I'm not planning it, but if you want, leave a note or leave a comment and saying, I would like you to explain why you think Rogue One is better than Solo, which I will probably in a video, but if you want me to go more in depth, I can tell you that. Then I'll do 4, 5, 6, the trilogy for that, and 7, 8, 9, then a trilogy for that. So I got a long way ahead of me. Hopefully you join me in this journey. And just remember, take it easy. These are movies, these are books, these are games, these are comics. Not real as much as we want them to be. And just enjoy them.